Hey, what's up? Welcome to Fathering Our Future. I'm Anthony Vandegrift, and I'm not the perfect dad, but every day, just like you, I am trying to be better. I remember when I first became a father, I was very delighted to find out that I was having a son because I was kind of horrified of what to do with daughters. I was worried about things that 3 daughters later, I should not have been worried about. Just the other day, my daughter JoJo came to me and she said, "Daddy, will you play with me upstairs?" And I said, "Yes, I will." So we go upstairs and she's got an Anna doll and a Moana doll, and I got to be Moana. And I don't know what kind of game she wanted to play, but the little boy came out in me, and that quickly morphed into a match of Mortal Kombat, and that was a whole lot of fun. It got crazy, it got wild, but we laughed and we had fun together. And I share that because I think it's really important that we are engaged with our kids on their level, that we do things that our kids want to do, that we take an interest in the things that they are interested in. Because our presence alone, while it is impactful, it just isn't enough. I just want to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you for listening to Fathering Our Future. I appreciate it personally, but I also love the fact that you care about being the dad your children need you to be, and so you tune into the podcast. But while I have you, I want to ask you something. I would like you to consider becoming a monthly supporter of Fathering Our Future. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe it's just $5 a month. For you, that's a cup of coffee. But for another dad, that's a resource, a benefit, or a blessing. So ask yourself if you're able to do that and then respond. Again, it can be as small as $5 a month. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I'm done. I'm not going to push the envelope. There's a link at the bottom of the description. You can click that and you can go to the support page and then you can make your contribution there. Again, thank you. I'm super excited to let you know about my most recent project, a devotional for dads called Following Our Father. As Christian dads, we have no better example than our Father in heaven on how to be a dad. As a father reading the scriptures, I cannot help but see how he truly is our Father. So in this devotional, I go through 30 qualities and attributes of God. You can take it one day at a time and knock it out in a month, or you can take the time that you need to absorb who our Father is so that you can be the dad that you're called to be and be the dad that your children need you to be. This is available to you. You can check the description to find the link to get your copy. You can even get a copy for someone else. But this is a resource for you that will bless you. It will impact you as a father, and it will impact your home. So get your copy of Following Our Father. Get it today. All right, so I want to draw your attention to Luke chapter 6. I want to make a little bit of a comparison here, and I think this last portion of Luke 6 does a good job in what I want to accomplish today. We're only going to look at verse number 49. At least this is the only one that I'll read, but it says, "But the one who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck that house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete." Now, Jesus makes a contrasting perspective in the previous verse when he talks about someone who hears and who implements, someone who hears and does. They're like a man who built a house on a rock, on a strong foundation. And whenever the storm comes, the storm passes and the structure remains. There is a difference in simply hearing and then hearing and doing. And in the same way that there is a difference between only hearing and then hearing and doing, there is a huge difference in simply being present and then being present and involved with your children. I know we hear a lot of the statistics about fathers being present at home and the difference and the impact that this makes. True. I endorse it. I believe it. I share it here on the podcast. Yes, you are needed, and yes, you are essential. Your family, your home, your children, they need you. But that's not enough. You cannot draw the line there and say, I'm home, I'm here, there's things that I'm going to do, but my example is here for my children to look and gaze upon because it's so glorious. They'll learn things from me as I have time to teach them, and this will be adequate. Because I am here, I'm setting them up for a successful life. That's a really, really bad perspective. Very minimal truth to that. We read the statistics of children who grow up without a father and how they're less likely to graduate high school and they're more likely to end up homeless. And girls without a dad at home are 7 times more likely to become pregnant as teenagers. We read those things, and because we're at home, sometimes we get this chip on our shoulder like, I'm doing it. We're doing a great job because we haven't walked out on our family. What a horrible metric to use. I mean, when you say it out loud and you realize, oh, wow, this is the alternative that I'm comparing myself to. We don't need to settle for just enough. We should be wanting to thrive as dads and making the biggest impact that we can make in our children's lives. And at the end of the day, it's not really about the impact. It's just about the relationship. It's about loving your kid or kids, in my case, because I've got a bunch of them. It's about loving your children and having that relationship with them. And if that is truly the goal, then all the other stuff happens. That's why I focus on relationship, mission, relationship, and identity. You focus on these 3 things as a father, and you are going to knock it out of the park. You're going to do great. But at the core of it all, it's about loving your kid. And if you love your kid, what does that propel you to do? I will tell you that it propels you to do a lot more than just be home. It ought to propel you to be involved, to be proactive, and to be engaged with your children. Because if you are not, your kid is still set up to struggle in greater ways than if you had just been involved in their life. Now, there was a little trip that we took last year, and that was the inspiration behind this episode. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and tell you the story. We're at a family water park, and that's the only details that I'm going to give you as to where we were. We're at a family water park, and everyone is there for family time. Grandparents, parents, children, they are all dressed in swim attire. Everyone's in the water. Everyone's doing something. If they're not doing something, it's because they're eating, or like I was in this particular instance, I was off to the side holding the baby who was taking a nap. Other than that, everyone was doing something. Everyone came to play and have fun. And while I'm off on the side with the baby, I noticed a family walk in. 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and a mom, no father. And I was so disturbed. And I'm going to try to not be judgy, and I'm going to try and be wise in just how I communicate this, but I'm going to tell you how I felt in the moment too. I felt sad. I felt angry. I felt confused. I can't process this. One of the boys was in a little girl's one-piece swimsuit. And that bothered me. Now, we're in Texas. It's a very conservative state. I've never seen anything like that. Heard about it, think it's wrong, still believe it's wrong, but when I saw it, I just felt heartbroken. I was angry, but I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken for the kid. I was angry at the mom. I think it's awful that there are parents who, they'll say otherwise, but they are so lazy and so disengaged that they will succumb to the will of their child who is inexperienced, who is ignorant and unlearned. And they will just support whatever they want to do. I love my kids. I want to support them in their ventures. But if my son says, hey, I want more money in my wallet, I want to go rob the bank, will you help me? Absolutely not. No way. If my child does something wrong, I will be there. I will support them. But I have got to stand for justice. I have to stand for what is right. Even instances where these men get called into scenarios where they've done something awful and the father and the mother just stand by them and say, we know they did what they did, but just, spare them. Yeah, I mean, I can share the sentiment of wanting them to have grace and mercy, but at the same time, you can't stand for the child just doing anything and everything that they want to do. Your leadership and guidance is something that they need. It's also something that they crave. They long for that from us. So I'm looking on at this family, and I'm heartbroken, and I'm angry, and I'm disturbed. because this should not be the case. But I noticed that there was only a mom. So I thought to myself, okay, there's no male role model in the home. This is the problem. She has allowed him to do this. She was not dressed in swim attire. She's in some little capri and fluffy frou-frou top. She wasn't getting close to the water. And the judgy side of me, I was looking, she's kind of looking around, kind of like with this look on her face, like, I want you to say something, like, say something about my kid. Again, this is me being judgy, and I'm trying to not do this, but this was just my perception in the moment. So I'm sitting there, and then I noticed a man walked up. This is 10, 15 minutes later. He walks up and he sits down, and it's clearly her husband. And this man looked like he was ready to kick back and relax at the country club with a couple of his buddies. There's no way he was going to put those loafers in the water. So they're the only two people who show up at a family water park with no intent of actually doing anything with their kids. And while he's sitting there, because now I'm really confused, because there's a male role model in the home. This little boy ought to see dad and think, I want to be like dad. Nope. This guy is on his phone the whole time. He gets up at one point, takes a phone call. And when he comes back, he's got a couple of beers, sits back, he relaxes, gets back on his phone. Every so often looks over at his wife when she says something to him. And that's it. This man was so disengaged from his family, it was ridiculous. And I'm sitting here, and the more I sit here, the anger kind of goes away. And the sadness just increases, because I'm thinking, there's so many problems that they're dealing with. They look like they've got it all together, but the brokenness in that home is something that I'm probably not even accustomed to. And that little boy is being led down a path, or being allowed to just go down a path that is going to end up in pain and misery. And I pray for that family. I really do. I pray that there's a dynamic change in that home. But I saw that. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that our presence as fathers, it's impactful, but it is also inadequate. It's not enough. It's not enough for us to just show up. It's not enough for us to do our thing, and to do our thing at home where our kids can see us, where we're tangible to our children. It's not enough. It is insufficient. And I know the statistics say that the likelihood of success and achievement are higher, but it's not enough. It's sad that a father was a part of that home, and that this little boy is allowed to live this way. It kind of crushed me, and it's sad to even think about again. But again, it reminded me that I'm important, and I'm essential, and I'm necessary. My kids absolutely need me. But me just being there doesn't cut it. Hey, if you're a new dad or choosing to embark on a fresh start as a father, I have a gift for you. I wrote a book a while back called Cut the Crap, Direct Tips for Becoming a Dad. I don't teach you how to change a diaper. That one's totally on you. But I do talk about 5 elements that you need to focus on as a dad if you want to be the dad your children need you to be. And this is completely free. It is yours. There's no strings attached. The only thing that I'd like you to consider is, if the book brings value to you as a father, make a contribution by going to fatheringourfuture.com/support. But you don't have to. Again, it is a free gift from me to you. The link is in the description after the end of the episode. Click it, get your copy, and I pray that it helps you. And one thing that I think is important for us to hear, because I know most of you listening, you're Christians. If you are disengaged in your children's lives while they are in your home, you give up your right to speak into their lives later on. Even when they're still in your home and they are teenagers and they're growing up and maturing into adults. If you've been disengaged the whole time and then you want to speak up because things get climactic and they get way out of hand, that's a problem. You can't just jump into this role of father when you have just kicked back and relaxed to do your own thing, like you're a bachelor living with other people. Not okay. And it's not going to work. You're going to fill your house with bitterness and resentment and hostility, and you will achieve nothing. And then when your kid grows up to do something that you absolutely cannot believe that they would grow up and do, you're going to say, I just don't know why they're doing this. I was there, but you weren't. You weren't there for them. You were there, but if you're there for them and you love them, then you are propelled by that love to do things with them, to be engaged, to be intentional, to be proactive. I don't want you to give up the influence that you have in your kid's life, because we're on mission. This isn't just about to the masses, do I come off as if I am a caring father? Who cares what they think? There is one person at the end of the day who gets to say whether or not you are a good dad. And that's your kid. If you grow up and you're like, oh yeah, I did all these things. I was a good dad. I loved it. It was awesome. I was a good dad. But your kid says otherwise, they win. They get to decide if you were a good dad. So it's not about what the masses think. It's about what your kid thinks. So what are you doing with them? How's your involvement with them? I want to encourage you today to be proactive, to be engaged with your children. I want you to think about how God is with us. God is not removed and absent from our lives. God is present. But God cares. God even tells us to cast our cares on Him because He cares for us. He wants to know what we're thinking about. Yeah, He already knows, but He wants to hear it from us. And that is such a father and parental trait. You watch your kids do something, you see what happens, but you just want them to tell you the story. You want to hear it in their words. Because part of the reason you do that, it's adorable, but the other part is that what you see and what they feel are not always the same. If your kid gets hurt, it might be less about the wound and more about what happened leading up to it. And when you listen to your kid, then you actually know what to address. Then you actually know how to help them. And I think about how God is with us. And this is clearly how we ought to be with our children. I want to give you a couple of tips. So I write in my devotional, Following Our Father, which, by the way, I had to get a new printer, so this one is a lot prettier than the last one. And same contents. If you got one already, good for you. I'm thankful that you have one. Same contents. It's just packaged a little nicer than it was. But in here, a couple of the devotionals that I have are about our Father being engaged and our Father being proactive. And at the end of every devotional, I give a step for the day. And this step is supposed to help you take the principles that you've learned about our Father and implement them into your family. And one of the tips that I give is whatever it is that you want to do today, stop and go ask your kid, what do you want to do? And then do that. So a good example is what I shared at the very beginning. I have plans every day. I'm trying to do stuff. I'm trying to scale Fathering Our Future. I'm trying to take care of the home. I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to do a bunch of things. My daughter comes up and she says, Daddy, will you play with me? All of these other things they get pushed to the side. And I'm going to go play with my daughter because I want her to know that I love her, that I care about her, and that I'm interested in the things that she's interested in. I want to just have time with her where we're actually doing something together. So that's one thing you can do. And the other tip that I'll share, this is the step that I give for our Father is proactive. And I think this one makes a big difference. This is about being first. This is about initiating, hence the word proactive, just in case you didn't know what that meant. Being the first one to initiate the hug or the I love you. Whatever your expression of affection is, do that first. Walk up at a random time. Hug your kids. Tell them you love them. Tell them you're proud of them. Be funny. Do something silly with them. Just embrace them and let them know that of all the other things that you could choose to do in this moment, what you thought best to do was come up and love on them. It's these little things that will make a tremendous impact far beyond you just being at home. These are the things that make disciples. These are the things that fulfill the mission of fatherhood. These are the things that create lasting relationships so that you will always have a voice into your child's life, so that they will always desire to come to you to get your input and to get your wisdom. It's not because you're always right that they care what you have to say. It's because you love them that they care what you have to say. It doesn't matter if you're always right. You're going to be wrong, but if you come off like you're always right, that's not going to win them over. You going to them and showing them that you care, that makes the difference. So I share this today because yes, you are essential, and yes, you are needed, and I will tell you that as often as I can. But the addendum attached to this statement that I just need you to know is that your presence alone in the home is not enough. It's insufficient and inadequate. What you need is to allow the love that you have in your heart for your children to propel you to be involved, to be engaged, and to be proactive. And again, if you want to learn more about that, if you don't have a copy, get yourself a copy of the devotional Following Our Father. And I talk about these things and a few other attributes of our Father that help us as dads along the way. Your presence isn't enough, but you are. You just have to be involved. You just have to be intentional, and that will make the greatest impact in your children's lives. Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you for your word that guides us and that gives us instruction. We thank you for your example that gives us exactly what we need to do as fathers here on earth to make an impact in our kids' lives. God, I pray that you would help us to continually look to you and learn from you on how we can grow and develop and be the dads that you've called us to be and the dads that our children need us to be. Lord, allow us to always keep in the forefront of our mind the love that we have in our hearts for our kids and what that ought to make us do. Allow the love that we have for our children to propel us. If our hearts are too hardened to act, soften our hearts today so that we don't just speak love and we don't just think love. But God, help us to act out our love so that we can make an impact, so that we can build a relationship, so that we can have influence, so that we can make disciples, so that we can be the dads that our children truly need us to be. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. One more time, I'm going to go ahead and recommend this because I think it is very applicable with today's content. Get you a copy of Following Our Father, a devotional for dads. I talk about 30 different qualities and attributes of God as our Father and how we can apply these principles that we learn from Him to our own lives as dads. And I give you a step that follows every devotional on something very small that you can do to take His qualities and to practice them in this life. And again, if you simply hear but you don't do, what are you actually building? You're not building anything that will stand. But I want you to know this. You are essential and you are necessary and you are going to make a difference in your kid's life if you'll just be in their life. You're a difference maker. You're a dynasty builder. You're a dad. You've got this. Be all in. And at any point when you are struggling, know that I'm here for you. You can reach out to me, fatheringourfuture@gmail.com. Whether it's questions, comments, or you just need someone to vent to, I'm here for you. Just reach out to me. Thank you for being with me. This is Fathering Our Future. I'm Anthony Vandegrift, and I hope you'll join me next time. Hey, one more time, I want to thank you for listening to Fathering Our Future. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so wherever you listen and consider leaving a nice review because I would appreciate that. But if you're not connected to Fathering Our Future on social media, you can find it on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And there you're going to get some additional content on a more regular basis that you don't always get here on the podcast. Now, the last thing that I would like to ask of you is that you would consider becoming a financial partner of Fathering Our Future, because dads make a difference, and dads are not disposable. Dads are vital, and they are essential, and they are needed. And the impact that dads make doesn't just reside in the home, but it has a ripple effect that goes to churches and communities and culture. And I'm inviting you to be a part of equipping and empowering and educating dads to be the dad that God has called them to be and that their children need them to be. You can become a financial partner with Fathering Our Future. It can be a one-time contribution, a monthly commitment, but by doing that, you play a direct role in impacting dads. You can check the link in the description below. You can pray about it. You can get on board. And I thank you in advance for becoming a part of Fathering Our Future in a special and a dynamic way. God bless you.